To make row by row waffle stitch, you need to chain a multiple of 3. I'm going to do 15. If you want to make a scarf or something with DK weight or Aran weight wool, you should probably do 36 or 42, something like that. All right, so I'm going to skip the first 3 chains and work a treble stitch into the 4th one, and then just work a treble all the way across in each chain. Okay, so I trebled in each chain across. That means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus that beginning chain 3 that I skipped before. Okay, to make sure that I don't miss that, here is my first treble, and there is the top of it, those 2 strands. So I'm going to put my stitch marker into the top of the chain 3. Sorry about the bouncing camera. I'll try not to bounce the table or knock the table, which is making the camera bounce around. Alright, so if you did 36, you're going to have 33 trebles plus the chain 3 at the beginning. If you did 42, you're going to have 39 trebles plus the chain 3 at the beginning. So it just depends on how wide you want to make it. All right, now I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and I'm going to do a raised front treble, not around the first one, but around the second one. Yarn over, go in between the first and second treble, all the way around the post, come out the back, yarn over, pull that yarn over up quite a bit so that it's loose, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and then we do that again. Yarn over, go between the second and third treble behind the post, yarn over, pull up a loop, keep it loose, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm going to do a normal treble in there, just in the top. Okay, it's time to work 2 more front post or raised front trebles. Yarn over, go between the one I just worked into the top and the next one, come out on the other side of the post, yarn over, loosen that, go through 2. That's my first one. And that's my second one. I'm just going to try notice something. If I stand up, maybe I won't have the wrong angle. Okay, here's a normal treble, so I'm just going to go under the top strands, the 2 loops of the next one. Okay, that's just one. Now it's time for 2 more post stitches. Raised front. Go under that post to raise it. There's 1, between, behind, up through. There's 2. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. I have 2 more. So be careful, like I just made this treble in here, be careful not to go back behind the one that you just worked into. That'll mess things up. So here's the one I just worked into. I'm going to go between it and the next one and come out behind and back to the front. All right. Okay, and here is the stitch that I marked with the stitch marker. That's the 3rd chain. So I'm just going to make a treble in there and take that stitch marker off. All right, going back to the beginning, I need to look for that first treble. There it is. So then I want to go back to chain number 2, because remember at the beginning of this row I just did a chain 2. So I'm going to go in there and in that strand, and that marks the beginning of the row, and it'll mark the end of the row when I come back. So turn my work. You can start seeing the waffle starting to appear. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2. Then I'm going to work 2 regular trebles into the top of those 2 strands like normal. 1, 2, okay, here is a grid line or a raised stitch that you can see crossing the horizontal ridge, making a vertical ridge. That means that we need to also make a raised front stitch here. So I'm going to yarn over. Before that stitch, I'm going to go under, behind the fabric, come around the post to the front, loosen that up quite a bit, and then make the treble. Now I have 2 plain trebles to do. That one, pardon me, and the next one. Alright, so now I'm at another grid line for the waffle. So I need to go behind that raised post so that it pushes to the front. Loosen that first loop quite a bit. That'll keep your waffle fabric from curling up. It'll keep things looking a lot more even and neat. Okay, then 2 regular. There's my second treble. Here's my raised grid. Yarn over, go in between the 2, the one before it, that space, under the post. Lift up that yarn nice and loose, and finish the treble. Okay, we're getting close to the end. 2 normal trebles. we're at that marked chain. So I'm going to go in, make sure I'm under 2 strands, and just do a normal treble there. Take that out. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning for a minute. Find the first treble and look at the top stitch, then scooch over to the next, which is the chain 2, and I'm going to put a marker in so that I don't lose my end of row and everything stays consistent. Okay, so that was row 1, row 2, row 3. So let's do an even number row. So I'm going to chain 2. You can turn before or after. All right, so if I look at my wrong side of the fabric here, I can see kind of these 2 raised stitches and then the base of the previous one. So I want to kind of keep visually a vertical line of raised stitches. So these 2 are going to be raised. So I skip the first one, chain 2, then go below, out in front, loosen that up, and do a raised front treble. Go between, behind the post, loosen that up, very important. And there's my second one. Okay, next we are at this stitch, which is kind of looks like it's hiding behind that bar. And we can just work a normal treble into that stitch. Like so. So I'm just going to go under the strands. Oops. And make my treble. Then I'm back to 2 raised trebles. Yarn over, go around that post from front to back to front. Make a treble. Go around that post from front to back to front. Loosen. And then do 2. So you don't have to do all of it loose. It's just that pulling up the yarn through the fabric. A normal treble. Loosen that up and go up. Second one. This is an even number row. Okay, so it's easy to remember. Even numbers are a multiple of 2, which means that you're going to have pairs of raised front stitches. Then a plain one. Now I have 2, so I'm going to go below, out, go below, come out the other side, yarn over, pull up a loop, keep it loose, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I'm at my marked chain. So I'm going to use that stitch marker to find where I put the hook. So now let's do an odd row. I'm going to chain 2, take that marker out, turn my work, skip the first one, and do 2 trebles. So there's the first one, and there's the second one. Okay, if by accident you've not skipped that first one, and you are, so let me show you what would happen if you didn't skip the first one. So here is the first one. So if I went in here and then did 2, I would be really far away from this post by a whole stitch. So if I went under that front post and then did 2 more, just I want to show you what it looks like. Okay, so it kind of leans, and this one is pulling over that way because we've skipped a stitch. And this kind of creates a bump. I think that bump is going to be there regardless, so it's just better when you're finished you can just work some double crochets along the edge. Okay, so odd row, chain 2, skip that first one, do 2 regular trebles. Okay, I'm going to do a front raised treble there to keep my vertical lines going up. Then 2 trebles. Then 1 raised. Okay, so odd number rows. You only have individual raised front stitches. Okay, near the end, 1 more raised, 2 plain trebles, and I'm going to go into the second chain. I didn't put the marker in, but I think I can find it right there. Okay, so you just repeat your even rows with multiples of 2 raised front stitches, and then your odd rows where your individual front raised stitches follow the vertical grid lines of the waffle. So let me know if that works for you. Thanks.